and welcome to the Planning Commission regular meeting. If I could have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Continuing on with the roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Guerrero. Commissioner Lopez.
She is present, but
She is present but away. Chair Sanchez.
present.
Commissioner Quill.
Here.
Commissioner Liang. Commissioner Wilbert.
Here.
Commissioner Jaramillo.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Chang is absent, and Vice Chair Jones is excused. We have quorum.
Thank you, Stephanie. Continuing on with the administration of oath. At this time, is there anyone wishing to speak on an item that is not listed or is listed on tonight's agenda?
Okay. Anybody looking to speak, if you could please stand. No, sir, go ahead from your seat. No, that's okay.
Yes, my name is Lawrence Farrell. I'm a
Oh.
resident in San
No,
Bernardino.
sir, we're just going to do the oath right now.
Oh, okay.
So just anybody tonight looking to speak, whether it's an applicant or on a specific item, if you could stand, I'll administer the oath. Okay? Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Going on to the consent agenda. Does staff have any updates for us?
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioners, Happy New Year. And we're off and running on another roll of meetings here. With that, item number 1 is the approval of the minutes for the last meeting of December 10th, 2019. They are complete as presented. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Oliver. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the consent calendar at this time? Oh, perfect. Okay. All right, so if we could have Commissioner Quill. Thanks, sorry.
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent calendar.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all right. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion passes. Continuing on to public hearing items. The Planning Commission will first hear a report from the staff, and then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak must be sworn in and also fill out a request to speak form. The forms are located on the table near the door. When your name is called, come forward and speak into the microphone. Say and spell your name and give your address for the tape record. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed and the Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All actions except general plan amendments and amendments to the Municipal Development Code are final actions unless an appeal is filed and fee paid within 15 days to the Community Development Department. If you challenge the resultant action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Department at or prior to the public hearing. And then if we can note that the Commissioner has arrived as well. So going on to item number 2, if we could have a staff report.
As Madam Chair and Commissioners, please be advised that the applicant is not present this evening. So it's up to you to decide if you'd like to continue on with the public hearing, take action, or whether you'd like to continue the item. Leave that for your decision.
We'll listen to the report, and then we'll make a decision from there.
Good evening. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 18-09. The proposed project is to renovate an existing 2-story commercial building with a basement and for a place of public assembly, which would be a kind of religious retreat center. The property is located on a parcel approximately 0.51 acres, located at 814 North Arrowhead Avenue within the commercial office zone. The proposed proponent is a nonprofit organization that provides focused study sessions and classes for faith formation and growth. On the first floor, they will be providing overnight, on the weekends only, they will be providing overnight stay for the religious retreats for up to 50 active members, men and women of 18 years and above. The first floor would also include a renovation of the showers for men and women, kitchen facility, and a dining area. The second floor will be for their administrative offices for the organization, and the basement area would be used for their gathering space for the study sessions and classes when they have their weekend retreats. Here's the location of the proposed project site. It is currently surrounded by residential properties to the north and to the west, as well as to the east. And then to the south, you have some commercial office buildings. Here's an area map of the existing site, as well as the surrounding neighborhood for the project site. This is a view of the existing site on North Arrowhead Avenue. Here's the site plan in terms of what they're proposing. They're going to keep the existing building. What they're going to be just doing is just doing improvements onto the existing parking lot area to be able to accommodate some of the parking for their office use. Here's the proponent for the first plan. As you can see, for the first plan, they're going to have their kitchen facilities within this area. And then they're going to have their showers for men and women in this vicinity. That's what's going to be renovated, with their sleeping quarters separated for men and for women on the first floor. For the second floor, this is where they're going to have the office areas for the organization itself. That's going to be operating during the weekdays. This is the floor plan for the basement. This is just going to serve for their gathering space for the religious retreats when they meet on the weekends. The recommendation is for the Planning Commission to adopt resolution number 2020-001, finding the categorical exemption and approving conditional use permit 18-09 based on findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. If you have some questions, I may be able to answer some questions.
Perfect. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open public hearing for item number 2. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? No. Anyone from commissioners?
Yes, thank you. Do you have any idea as far as any security measures that they're going to?
They are going to have on-site security for the weekends when they have the religious retreats. They didn't indicate in terms of how many security officers they will be having on site, but they will be having security for for those weekends, and that's going to be composed of their congregation members.
Any additional improvements as far as exterior lighting? For the
They
parking
didn't,
area?
and they're not indicating that they're going to be providing additional lighting, but we can provide a condition that we can condition it so that they do provide additional lighting in case they lack some lighting within the existing facility area. A lot of the conditions already are existing. It does look like they have lighting within the exterior of the building, but if we want them to provide additional lighting just for more security reasons, we can definitely condition that so that they can provide that.
And how about hours of operation through the week and weekend?
Yes, let me just confirm that information for you. So for the weekends, their hours of operation, they're going to start Saturday morning, 9 a.m., and then all the way to Sunday, about 9 p.m. So that's going to be their weekend operation. They're going to have bus transportation. So they're going to be 14 passenger buses that are just going to drop the active members of certain religious facilities, and then they're going to be dropped for the weekend and then picked up on Sunday. And then for the weekdays, it's normal office business hours from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 5 p.m., somewhere around there.
So the retreats are just the weekend only?
Just the weekends, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
The Chair, are the people attending the retreats restricted to any curfew or anything like that? Or are they going to have the opportunity to get out in the evenings, or is this, well, I've never heard of anything like this.
So the functionality of the retreat is for them to stay on site. It's a class formation for religious growth and spiritual growth. So they provide different classes and seminars and groups, like Bible studies on site. So they would have to remain on site as well for those weekends. And then they wouldn't be able to go off site. It would just be everything on site, and they would have to stay within that area, within the building for that weekend area.
Is there security fencing around the perimeter of the
Currently, there is security fencing around the property. They have a block wall. Let me pull up the site plan. So currently, there is an existing block wall along the perimeter of the property. Did I turn that off? Sorry. Sorry, I don't know what just happened. So they do have perimeter fencing to the north of the property. We'll get that fixed right now. To the north and to the west of the property. And then there's an adjacent property building, which is this whole building, which is comprising, so that kind of provides that security. And then they have a gate at this entrance of the driveway here on Arrowhead, and on an entrance here on West 8th Street. So they do have security all around, fencing.
I have a question. Why is the applicant not here? Is there a conflict in scheduling?
They were made aware of the meeting. They received the notice. We did not receive a call from them as to not
Okay.
being here.
Because I really think we ought to continue this item. There are some questions that I'm not so sure that Elizabeth would be able to answer, such as, like Commissioner Quill said, it's unusual that they're renovating a large property for only use in the weekends. And I don't know enough about the organization, Jóvenes para Cristo. I don't know if these are young people who are, they may be being rehabilitated or whatever through the use of religious study and so forth. I don't know. And I don't know if the residents around that property know this or not. Were notifications sent out to them?
As
Was
always,
there-
we do.
And
mail out
was there
public
any feedback or anything?
notice. No, there was not.
But I would want to know more about the organization and what they're actually going to be using and participants and whatever other questions that I think should be directed to the applicant. So I don't know if I may, Madam Chair, to make a motion that we continue this item. There is nobody here speaking for it, so it's not like but I would feel like we're making a decision not knowing all of the information directly from the applicant.
I would agree with that. There are a few questions I also have that would be directed more towards the applicant. So unless someone else on the commission wishes to make a decision on this, I would say we continue this until the next meeting.
I would second that we continue it.
Continue it.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so I will at this point close. Yes. If I could have, first I'll close the public hearing for this item, and then I will have a motion to continue this item onto the next meeting when the applicant can be here to answer a few questions that we might have on this. Okay?
I make the motion that we continue this item for the next time the Planning Commission meets.
I'll second that. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? All right. So this item will be pushed to the next meeting. Thank you.
There's no slides.
Continuing on to item number 3. If we could have that staff report, please.
Yes, Commissioners. Item number 3 involves conditional use permit 19-19. It is for the property located at 1611 North E Street. It is a request to upgrade an existing ABC Type 20, which is off-sale beer and wine, to a Type 21, which is off-sale general alcohol. At this point, we are requesting that this item be continued to the next Planning Commission meeting. We have received the investigation report. As the Commissioners are aware, whenever there's a request for ABC, a conditional use permit involving an ABC license, Police Department goes through their investigation, statistics, crime stats, and those kinds of things. They have provided that to us. We are in dialogue with them in terms of the findings of their report and what their recommendation is. And so our recommendation is that we continue this item to the next meeting so that we can have the full analysis before you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Oliver.
You're welcome.
I will actually open this up for public hearing. I do have someone who wishes to speak on this item. If we could have Lawrence Taylor. If you could state your name and your address for the tape record.
Yes, Lawrence Taylor, 470 West 17th Street, San Bernardino. And I did not receive notification about this, so make sure y'all put me on y'all's mailing list, please. Yes, after communicating with several neighbors, as well as my main neighbor, we felt that, the neighborhood on 17th Street, around the 400 block, felt that having an unconditional alcohol increase with a high school so close by and family service who deals with Alcohol Anonymous and all the other type meetings, that it behooves us that such a application is even considered that close to a public high school, and we all know our children. So we just wanted to voice our opinion that it would be a bad idea to grant those licenses, and several of the neighbors have sent information to the Alcohol Beverage Control Organization. That's in, where is it located? I want to say Riverside. So we strongly oppose upgrading the license and just wanted to voice our opinion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. If no one else wishes to speak on this item, I will hereby close public hearing, and I will entertain a motion to continue this onto the next meeting.
I make a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Do I have a second? Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would just like to notify the gentleman who spoke, because we did vote to continue the item, look for it in next month's agenda. You may want to come back, bring some more of your neighbors. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing on to item number 4, if we could have the staff report, please.
Yes, item number 4 is conditional use permit 19-20 and minor exception 19-02. This is a request for a hotel, the Home 2 Suites by Hilton, proposing 113 guest rooms with a swimming pool and lounge area outdoors, fitness center indoors, breakfast service station and seating area indoors as well. Project site is 1.88 acres, located at the south side of Briar, basically at the terminus of South Gifford Avenue within the Commercial Regional CR3 zone and the Transit District overlay. The existing site is vacant, but largely surrounded by developed properties. Currently, there's just a few trees in the parkway and some non-native grasses on the site, so everything will be fully developed with this proposal. As you can see, there's a fairly sizable outdoor pool with a lounge area. The minor exception that was processed for the conditional use permit was to reduce parking spaces from 124 parking spaces, which is required by the current code regulations, to 113 parking spaces, which equates to a 9% reduction in the overall parking spaces that are required for the property. Some of the analysis that we used while reviewing that parking reduction request were the fact that for the most of the hotels in the area experience about an 82% occupancy on average. We looked at, a little bit higher than that at 85% occupancy, and still they would only require 96 spaces. And the site is also served by additional transit options being in the transit district overlay. Other than that, the architecture is modern. It looks to fit the area, and there are no other issues with the site. So our recommendation tonight is that Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2020-003, finding the project to be categorically exempt under the infill development section of CEQA, and approving conditional use permit 19-20 and minor exception 19-02 based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
Perfect. Thank you, Chantal. I hereby open public hearing for this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Yes? All right.
Stephanie, I believe that the applicants did not stand for the administration of the oath, so if you'd like to do that for anybody that would like to speak on the item.
Anybody else? No? Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do. Thank you.
Do you wish to hear from the applicant first or myself? Hi, my name is Bill Shapiro. I have property that's quite close. I'm the neighbor of the CHP, which is on the other side of this property. I'm speaking in favor of the application because I think I've had a chance to talk with these gentlemen, and I am very familiar with the area. This will be a very positive influence, I think, on the area. And I think that, of course, having been practicing law there for almost 12 years, 41 years in San Bernardino, I just think it's a good thing. Plus, I have a lot of space I need now to put witnesses, experts, clients, and I'll have a very convenient hotel nearby. But all seriousness, I think it's a good thing for the city and for Briar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I could have you state your name and address for the tape record.
Sure. Atman Kadakia with Greens, 9289 Research Drive, Irvine, California, 92604. Excuse me, 92618. First off, I'd like to just start by thanking staff. We've worked extensively with Chantal, with Oliver, and Mike Huntley, amongst other city staff, and we've worked through many of our site-related, processes. I just wanted to thank staff for being accessible and willing to work with us on this development. We own and operate a dozen hotels. We are developing almost close to a dozen properties in Riverside. We're doing developments in Big Bear, Loma Linda, and in the surrounding region. We also manage all of our hotels ourselves as a hotel management company. We're excited to develop this property here, and we look forward to your support, and hopefully we can be underway soon. Our goal is to be under construction by this summer and open 12 months later by about July, August 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for him? Yes.
Is this hotel being built on an empty lot or over another?
No, it's
older
currently
building?
vacant. You can see I have the site plan pulled up, so there's no development there currently. but it is surrounded by developed properties. Yeah.
And I know that you have the streets here, but give me some clues, Chantel, about what is around it? Where is it at? I know it's in the third ward. Is it close
Briar
to
Drive?
Hospitality or?
Briar Drive is basically one street north of Hospitality Lane.
Okay.
So basically behind kind of the main thoroughfare along Hospitality Lane. You have mostly offices on Briar. So this will be a use that'll kind of fit in well with that environment.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair. What was the reasoning for the reduction in parking spaces?
I apologize. Who asked the question?
Myself.
Okay, hi. Yes, hi, Monique. Being in the hotel business, we typically find in a suburban market a 0.8 parking ratio to be more than sufficient, because what happens is a lot of times one vehicle comes but they take 2 rooms. In a location like this, there's certainly options with Uber, Lyft, things like that for business travelers who are coming in, or even people visiting family across the way in Loma Linda, where they don't want to pay for a rent-a-car, for example, at $30-40 a day if they're just going across the way, so they stay at the hotel. All of the neighboring cities as well, many of the neighboring cities, I should say, and most cities we develop in, require a 1-to-1 parking ratio. All of the brands that we work with, Marriott, Hilton, Best Western, all require a 1-to-1 parking ratio in suburban markets. Urban, it gets a lot more dense, but on a suburban market, 1-to-1. So the city's code calls out a 1.1 parking ratio. If we were to adhere to that, I believe we would overpark the site, and on the flip side, not maximize the density of what the site could develop to. So that was all factors in our request for that consideration.
So now will there be designated parking spaces for staff?
No, there's no designated parking spaces for staff. So the way it works in our hotel business, it's a limited service hotel, so we don't operate with meeting spaces, weddings, we don't do banquets, events, we don't have restaurants or bars. We are it's a Hilton branded upper mid-scale property, but it's still a limited service hotel. And so what that means is that our typical staffing model in the evenings and night times would be no more than 1 to 2 people through the night shift, and so that parking demand is very minimal. And in the daytime, the customers typically start checking out of a hotel around 5 a.m. That goes on till about 11 to 12 for your late checkouts. And so as those customers on a peak night leave, our staff is coming in starting around 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9. A lot of housekeepers trickle in around 9, 9:30, because if they come earlier, people are still in their room. So the way that staffing works is they come a little later. So when you look at the parking flow, brands taking into consideration staffing in other neighboring cities, 1-to-1 ratio suffices very well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I see again the picture of what the hotel will look like? And what is the name of the hotel? I can't. Okay.
Very nice.
So in your estimation, it does beautify the area, the surrounding businesses will like it, as this gentleman is suggesting also? Okay, keeping it. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you. Quick question on the 113 parking spaces. Does that comprise the handicap parking per code?
Yes.
Thank you. That's it.
Commissioner.
Yeah, on a positive basis, our bedroom tax, this will increase revenue to the city. Can you somehow indicate how much that might be?
I think the applicant may have a better analysis of that. Yeah.
Thank you, Chantal, and thank you, Ed, that's a great question. Our tax analysis and revenue analysis is on most of our hotels have been done by a firm called David Taussig and Associates. Some of you may know the name. a hotel like this, with what we're projecting as far as ADR and occupancy, when you factor in all of the different sources of revenue directly to the city's general fund, including transient occupancy tax, which is the largest category, but there's a series of other taxes that come in. This hotel is projected to bring in $2,500 a day in tax revenue directly to the city's general fund, or about $750,000 annually. So it's pretty significant, as is most hotels that are developed, because specifically because of the transient occupancy tax, which in most jurisdictions, and I believe yours as well, goes directly to the city's general fund.
That's great news. I love hearing it. Thank you.
Through the chair. Now that TOT, will that be effective immediately, or have there been any concessions?
There have been no concessions.
Thank you.
If we have no further comments or questions at this time, I will close public hearing and I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve conditional use permit 19-20,
Second.
item 4.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Congratulations and welcome to the city. Continuing on to item number 5, if we could have the staff report.
Of course. Item number 5 involves extension of time number 19-12. It's for tentative track map 16794. It's for the property located on the west side of North Palm Avenue, just north of Vermont Drive. It's within the low residential zone. The property contains approximately 18 acres. The proposal involves the construction of the subdivision of 43 single-family residential lots, and there is a debris sub-basin that's included in it. For this project, this is the 4th extension of time request per the city's code and the MAP Act. You may recall that this item was before you last year around this time. It also included a request for amendment to conditions, where we modified the conditions to transfer the condition related to landscape maintenance districts to community facilities district per the direction of the city council. So that was processed last year around this time in the 3rd extension. This is the location map of where the site is. It's within the residential zone. This is the aerial showing the vacant lot and the surrounding residential neighborhoods to it. This is the exhibit of the subdivision, and with the debris basin being up on the upper left-hand corner of the site. Staff's recommendation is the Planning Commission consider adopting resolution number 2020-004, finding the categorical exemption and approving the extension of time for tentative track map 16794, subject to the conditions. That concludes my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver.
You're welcome.
If I could actually open public hearing item number 5. Any questions? Commissioner?
Thank you. Oliver, if we could go back to the site plan, right there. Yeah, so the description says there's a debris basin in there at the upper left northwest corner. How would that be? How is that going to be maintained? Again, I don't recall when this came up before us last year, and we made some modifications to the conditions of approval. Can you elaborate on that, how that basin would be maintained? Would that be passed through like home ownership, the homeowner association, or would there be some sort of maintenance district formation?
Well, it is within the community facilities district, so it'll be maintained through that and through the proper assessments to the properties owners that are in that subdivision. In terms of the maintenance, Alex, do you mind? Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Alex Kista. I'm the city engineer. And communities facilities district that's going to be established for this. residential project. It's also going to be responsibility to maintain the streets that's in there, any landscaping that is in the public right-of-way. It will be also maintaining the concrete, curb, gutter, sidewalk, whatever is in the long run, and will take care of any street lights that is going to be there, including the charges, what is Edison usually charges for it. And that is what the Community Facility District do. It's establish all of these parameters, and it will figure out how much it's going to cost on a yearly basis, and that's how every property will be assessed at their taxes.
Thank you. Do you have is there an estimation in terms of the cost that would be provide maintenance services for this area?
We have not started the process yet. You know, the applicant have not yet applied for the formation of the CFD. And a matter of fact, one of the condition of approval for this project for the map to be finalized and signed and accepted by the City Council for them to formalize that. But I cannot give you a number because there is a lot of parameters that are going to be involved for us to give a number. I cannot even guess what it is because, you know, we need to find out what kind of landscape, what kind of, how many lights, how many, you know, how many of the streets in there, the concrete. So it's, cannot give a number at this point of time, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. Appreciate the info.
Thank you. Any further comments on this item?
I'm not clear. What is the reason for the fourth extension?
It's just the timing. They're in the process of finalizing their map.
The map, the
recording
track
it.
map.
And then they're also working with the city's water department in terms of the plans for the water supply up in that area. As you may recall, they're working with a handful of developers that are up there with the different subdivisions, coordinating the cost and those improvements.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
One last question, Oliver, and this may go to Councilor over there in terms of provisions to the Subdivision Map Act. Is there any, would there be provisions that would allow the map to be extended at the maximum number, or does it have to be annual by annual basis? And so is there sort of capacity to make that so it wouldn't be on a piece by piece, you know, annually? So if there are provisions that would allow it, for example, like maximum of 36 months or more, could that be accomplished?
Yes, it can. You may recall a couple of meetings ago, there was an extension of time where the applicant had requested, I believe it was 3 years, and that was granted by the Planning Commission. So in this particular case, if you were inclined, they are allowed a maximum of 6 years. Okay. If you want to grant it to that, you know, up to the additional 3 years of extension, that's your discretion to do if you choose to, or if you want to do it 2 years, whatever your pleasure would be. But yes, that could be done.
Is the applicant here? Is this the map? Is this what they're asking for? Or is
the applicant is not here, and they've only asked for 1 year.
Commissioner?
So they get a maximum, maximum of 6 extensions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And they're on their 5th now.
They're on their 3rd now.
Well, they're 3rd now.
I'm sorry. This is their 4th.
Oh, okay. This is their 4th now.
That's correct.
Okay. We've, just a comment, it's just, we have a lot of this type of development that going for extensions and extensions and extensions, and we're not seeing any action on them. If we don't accept this extension, just hypothetically, what will that do?
It's a good one. Expires. It expires.
And does the whole project expire and they start over?
Yes.
And we don't have anybody here representing?
Of course, they do have the ability to appeal to the City Council.
And we don't have anybody here to represent the owner?
No, we do not.
If it's that important, they should have been here. All right, so they've still got 1 more year of extension then?
No, 2 more years.
2 more, okay.
That's right, 2 more years.
2 more out, and then they run out. What kind of housing is this? I mean, is Is it individual lot or individual houses?
Right now, they just have the subdivision for the 43 lots. At such time when they're ready to develop, when they record their final map, prior to developing any homes, it needs to come back. There's a development permit application where the commission would then see the architecture of the home, the floor plans, elevations, and those things. You may recall we've had some other subdivisions, smaller ones, where they show you how they're going to develop the lot. That process has not commenced yet, so at some point before they start construction, and after they record the final map, they will come in for a request for that approval.
So with that, how long will it take to get to that point? We're talking probably over a year again, aren't we?
Well, once they record the map, then there's no need for extensions, and they could leave. It could stay vacant until there's no condition on when they have to develop the site.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oliver, if I may just sort of chime in on my colleagues over there, I'm just a bit surprised that, a representative or applicant's not here to entertain this item similarly to the previous earlier item. I mean, if it's that important, but were there statements or indication that would...
We've been in communication with them, and there was nothing that was provided from them saying that, Oliver, we can't make the meeting. Do we want to continue it? Do we want to reschedule or anything like that? It's, I received no further correspondence as it relates to whether or not they were going to attend this evening.
Assuming worst case scenario, that if we don't approve this, or if we continue it, when's the expiration date exactly?
Well, the application is already expired. I mean,
is it after the fact that we're acting on this?
The way that our code is written, the expiration date is December 21st of 2019. That's when the expiration date. Our code does allow that if you you can submit an application for an extension. If it's done within 30 days or so before the expiration, you can do that. You're good, and then you're allowed to go through your processing. So it's kind of, quasi still valid pending the decision here. So if the Planning Commission were inclined to continue the item to the next meeting, I could advise the applicant that they should be here, and we can do that if that seems a route that you'd like to go.
It just seems like it would be a good idea to do that, to show up, for your own show. And a no-show, it just doesn't seem like it's put a lot of weight into this consideration in front of the Planning Commission, for example. Would you agree?
Continuing on with that vein as well, I was looking at the background for this. This project has been in motion since 2009, and it got 3 approvals from us as a city, and then 3 from the Assembly Bill 303, just from the state, due to, economic things. So this has been in motion for several years, and understand holding off for quite a while, but like Commissioner Wilbert said, this has been taking quite a while, and them not showing up, I don't think it quite appropriate, especially if they're asking for a 4th extension. So unless someone would like to...
Yeah, I would like to make a motion, if it pleases the commission, that we continue this item to the next Planning Commission, unless other motion put forward. Otherwise, I'd like to consider having this in front of the Planning Commission for explanation, clarifications, if any. I know the city engineer did a great job on explaining the debris basin maintenance, but nevertheless, I think a no-show shows a little bit of neglect, and with no indication of statement or whatsoever submitted to staff for explanation. I think it deserves a representation in front of the Planning Commission. So I'd like to make a motion to move this to the next Planning Commission hearing. Thank you.
I will second that.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Wolfer.
Just thinking here, okay, next now, we're going to give them an automatic 30 days. For them to come back, will that now expire their rights to, it won't? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lopez, seems like you have a comment?
No.
No? Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second to extend this.
Madam Chair,
so
we
if
haven't
can-
closed the public hearing yet.
Yes. If we will close public hearings on this item at this time, and we will entertain a motion on extending this to the next meeting. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes to continue this item on to the next month. Continuing on to item number 6, if we could have staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 6 this evening is General Plan Amendment 1901, Zoning Map Amendment 1905, Subdivision 19003, and Conditional Use Permit 1910. This is a request to change the zoning designation and general plan designation of a property approximately just over 18 acres in size, from residential, a mix of residential and industrial, to public facilities. Subdivide the property then into 2 parcels, one just over 15.5 acres and one approximately 2.25, to facilitate the development of a charter school. That charter school would be located just on the first parcel, and this property is located at 230 South Waterman, approximately. That's the northeast corner of Waterman and Valley. This is the project site right now. As you can see in this image, it appears primarily vacant. There are a number of older structures that were existing on the northwest corner. Those have since been demolished because this is just an older aerial. As noted, the property right now, it's a mix of the yellow, which is the residential, and then the pink color on the right-hand side, which is industrial park, fronting Waterman Avenue. The charter school in question that's being proposed is existing within the city. This is the Norton Science and Language Academy. They currently operate out of a facility down on Central Avenue between Waterman and Lena, or Valley View, depending on which name you want to use. They are proposing to develop this new facility as part of a relocation. The facility down there would then be closed, and there is, primed for future development within that industrial area. The school itself, just a little bit of information about the operations. At full build-out, which would not occur immediately, they would employ approximately 130 staff members and up to 1,450 students. That would be between kindergarten and high school, I believe, and I can be corrected if I make a mistake. Right now, the facility does not have high school, so that would be a long-term expansion for the user and on the property. Typical operating hours are just before or just around 8 a.m. to 2:45 in the afternoon. There would be additional operating hours on the site on occasion for after-school meetings, other after-school programs, and potential athletic events and things of that sort. As part of the project improvements, in addition to the typical on and off-site improvements, the street improvements, curb gutter, sidewalk, a lot of which is missing on the property currently. They would also be signalizing one of the intersections located at the southeast corner of the site at Waterman and Valley. If I skip, I'll show a couple images of the site first, and then we'll go through the site plan. This is the existing site. As mentioned, it's primarily just a lot of brush, other natural vegetation, no structures currently remaining on the property. This is looking from Waterman Avenue. This is the corner down at Waterman and Valley. It's on Valley looking north on Waterman. And then this is the property from Allen, which is the west side of the property, looking eastward across the site. This is the overall site plan for the project. The intersection that I mentioned for signalization would be in the lower right-hand corner, which would provide then kind of regulated access to the primary parking and primary entry point, which is at the south portion of the site, to the larger parking area on the southern end. The way that the site has been designed, primary access would be on the south end. There is limited access. It would be right in, right out, only along Waterman. And then there is the access road that leads around the entire site to the northern parking area and then to a drop-off area that's a little hard to see on the image because it's so, there's a lot of detail, but there is a separate kind of designated queue for drop-off and pickup that runs the entire frontage of the property. As far as the kind of the layout of the site, it's broken up with kindergarten, kind of elementary buildings on the north end. You have your middle school facilities and admin facilities towards the center, and then the high school facilities on the south end. Each one of those kind of separate schools, if you will, have their own designated area, designated kind of quad area. You see on the very northern part of the site towards the middle, and then some around the high school buildings, so that they can operate without disrupting each other as their schedules alternate. There is, I do want to just clarify, so we have access point along Waterman, access point down around Valley, and then it's a little hard to make out on the drawing, but there is just a limited access road on the north side of the athletic field that would give them access from Allen. That is not intended to be a primary drive. That's more for emergency access. It really wouldn't be open for the regular vehicular traffic. Landscaping plan for the site, as is typical with our other developments, spread throughout the parking areas, both north-south and then kind of wrapping around. We do have some enhanced landscaping that we had worked with the applicant on, kind of on the primary entry points and along the corners, just to give a little bit more of a focus on those areas, kind of get some, the attractive kind of gateway onto the project site. As far as what the site would look like, it's hard to go through all of the elevations because there's a number of buildings, so we do have a few renderings of what the main buildings would look like. This would be kind of the main entry looking towards the back of the image, kind of around where the flagpoles are, would be the administration building. This is the main drive aisle, and then the drop-off that would front Waterman Avenue. We have a portion along the parking lot on the northern end of the site looking towards the kindergarten and the elementary buildings. And then this is looking from the west side of the site, looking down into the elementary buildings. If you looked all the way through the buildings, you'd be seeing Waterman Avenue. And then this is the overview of the entire property. As you can see, Waterman Avenue is going to be the main street here on the lower left. You have you can see the buildings closest to you. Closest and on the right-hand side would be the elementary and kindergarten. Middle school is mentioned in the just next to that. You have some of the bigger buildings in the middle, which are the gym and some of the kind of multi-purpose buildings. And then the only portion that would be two-story is the high school portion all the way at the south end. And with that, our recommendation this evening is to approve Resolution 2020-005. That would be forwarding a recommendation to the council because of the amendments on this project to adopt the mitigated negative declaration that has been prepared and approve the general plan amendment, map amendment, subdivision, and conditional use permit. Now, you do have the applicant here if you do have any questions this evening, or be happy to answer anything if there's any additional.
Thank you, Travis. At this point, I will open public hearing for item number 6. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? I'll start the ball with that. It looks like a beautiful project. I'm not far from this area, so I do drive to pass this section like that, and it is a very wide open land that has nothing on it. So the project looks great. Commissioner?
Commissioner.
Quick question, Mr. Martin. So if, in terms of zoning designation, do we have an existing land use map that we can reference here?
Yes, it's back towards the beginning here. This is the existing existing zoning designation on the property. We have residential suburban on the west side, fronting the other single-family neighborhood, and then office industrial park, as is typical along the Waterman corridor. And we're proposing to rezone the entire property to public facilities because of the intended use of the property.
So the
more
entire
consistent.
block would be rezoned, all that in that?
Everything
the
within the
entire
black
section?
outline would be, yes.
I see. I know the project proposes a mitigated negative declaration.
That's correct.
How does that, in terms of traffic, how does that interact with some of the industrial? You know, it's an OIP, it's surrounded by OIP, Office Industrial Park. So how does that, in terms of delivery, in terms of drop-off, would there be any conflicts with some of these trucks?
There wasn't with what was reviewed on the site. The main thing so that we did eliminate a lot of the conflict was, the key mitigation measure that came up was the signalization of Valley, just so that we didn't have cars backing up onto the street trying to turn in. We didn't have people trying to dart out onto Waterman as they're exiting. You know, they did have more controlled movement. Additionally, the industrial development, with the exception of the lone building immediately across the street in the gray as shown on the image, the larger industrial development really doesn't continue that far north. Mill is where the majority of it stops, and that's the next major street just to the south. Most of what's around there is, a lot of your smaller office park development that really wouldn't have a lot of the trucking. And then I did realize I meant to mention the area to the north, while it's still zoned a mix of industrial park and the residential suburban, the area immediately to the north is what is currently developed as Frank Dominguez Elementary. So this is really more, we're looking more that direction. It is really more consistent with the single family and with the other educational facilities in the area.
I believe you have an aerial photograph of the site.
Yes.
If we could kind of go back to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you see, we do have the lone industrial building on this side. The rest of it is a lot of smaller. I believe this is more of an auto retail just south of that. Kind of a mix of smaller industrial and office uses further south. The single-family neighborhoods all the way to the west of the site, and then it's a little hard to make out because of the parcel lines on the image. But you have the school and their play fields just immediately north of the property.
What are the two cross streets?
Waterman is the east side.
So the entrance faces Waterman?
Yeah, let me skip back to the site plan here. This image is oriented with north at the top. On the east side of the property, the larger street here is Waterman Avenue. On the west side?
On the west side.
The west side is Allen.
Okay.
The next major street going north on the north side of Frank Dominguez, I believe is Second? Or Rialto, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The street immediately on the south of the project site is Valley, and then further south below that is going to be Mill.
Allen Street, so we're talking about Waterman South up this way. Allen Street that crosses the Meadowbrook community?
Yeah, basically, like if you took from where we are today, went out to either just down one block to Rialto, and then headed west, or headed east, I apologize, you would pass Meadowbrook Park. Immediately past that is where the existing elementary school is. Right on the corner, that is Allen and Rialto.
Right.
So this would be just south of that.
The only other question I would have of the applicant is if, because you say it's going to be a charter school, that
Correct.
they have met all the requirements and certifications outlined by the Unified School District.
Yeah, the school that would be going in there is the Norton Science and Language Academy. They are already operating and have been for over a decade. They're currently on the property, if anyone is familiar, on the south side of Central, just off of Lena and Valley View, just about 3/4 of a mile southeast of this site. So they are an existing facility.
So they are already
licensed
licensed and certified and everything?
Yes.
And meet all the requirements?
Yes.
So you've been operating, can I have someone come up?
Thank you.
You have already been operating a charter school here in the city of San Bernardino?
Okay, yes, we have.
For how long and
Yes.
where?
On Central Avenue and since for the last 11 years.
Oh, okay.
So we have a very strong relationship with our authorizer, which is not actually the district, it's the County Board of Education.
Okay.
So our charter school is a countywide benefit.
Okay.
And then we have another charter school that has been in operation for over 20 years.
Okay.
And our organization is 30 years old, so.
This is going to be a big campus.
It's going to be a great campus. It will actually be the exact same size as the campus that we have in Apple Valley. So we just haven't been able to expand at our current location and are very excited about the potential of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a question. In today's world that we live in, this is a beautiful design, beautiful campus.
Yes.
But what precautions do you take in designing this for security in today's world?
That is a very big concern of ours and our development team. So we have a whole fencing design, of course, security cameras. We also employ a very robust security staff. So a multi-pronged approach. But that has certainly been a big part of our design, not to distract from what we want to be a very beautiful project, but also to keep our students and staff safe is number one. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
May I ask a few more questions?
I would.
Since you're up here.
Yes, please.
When do you anticipate to start construction for your project?
As soon as possible.
What-
April?
Yes.
April.
Excuse me. The plans for the project were actually submitted today.
Yes.
The applicant is doing an at-risk submittal, just in an effort to maximize their time. So providing the project proceeds forward this evening and then through the intended council meetings, they would be looking at pulling plans toward mid to late April, and then immediately proceeding
And
thereafter.
and then the applicant anticipates to open for business on.
Fall of 2021. So,
Thank you.
yeah, August.
Through the chair. Beautiful project, beautiful development. Why only one drive-through on Waterman? Why
Only one driveway?
One
there?
driveway on Waterman.
I think, sorry, I'll let you. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. Our goal would be to just make sure that all of our queuing is happening on the campus and pull everything off the service street. So we have what we think is a really good design to pull everybody up and around the campus.
If I can show you back
yeah.
on the site plan, the driveway on Waterman is not really intended. Waterman access is not really intended to be the primary access point for the site, because you do have the center lane on Waterman, but you don't want too many people queuing on that if it's avoidable. The main entry point is really just towards the south end of the site. You can see just before the notched portion. That's where that signal is going in, and then when people enter that, you can actually trace all along the site. They can come up, they would follow the road that leads around the entire site through here, and then there is the actual drop-off lane running the entire length here. So as Lisa was mentioning, you get the people on site, lead them all the way around, and then you don't have the cars running into each other and going every which way, off-site, trying to find a way to get on. You have more controlled movement around the property.
That's like a wonderful, perfect image if everyone's running on time and.
Yeah. It also allows us to
Right.
regulate, so we have a kiosk plan for that entrance, and that would be manned, and so that also allows us another security measure so that we're able to check everybody who's coming on and off campus and to regulate it. So, and we've thought a lot about what about those folks who are running late to work, and I've been in the school business for 22 years and have done my fair share of traffic duty, so we were trying to really look at all of those loopholes and close them so that people can't cross traffic, which blocks everything, or it's not safe for our students. So we think we have a good plan.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, I will actually close public hearing at this time, and I will entertain a motion for item number 6.
I'll make the motion that staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2020, forwarding the recommendation to the Mayor and Common Council, subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and adopting a mitigated negative declaration and pursuant to California Environmental Act CEQA document. Thank you.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We definitely have a second. All right, so we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Aye. The motion. Oh, okay. So we do have one opposed. All right. So the motion passes. Congratulations. All right. Moving on to item number 7, if we could have the staff report.
All right, this is the moment we've been waiting for. Development Code Amendment 1904 for the comprehensive sign code update. We're also updating a section of 19.20 for the property development standards. We had a kind of a vague explanation of what the traffic safety site area was, so we wanted to make sure that we had a good graphic for that. And an explanation added to that chapter, and that just makes the reference to that in the sign code, a bit easier to understand. So we were doing that as well. But once again, if I haven't told you enough times, we were mostly trying to focus on clear and enforceable signage regulations with updated graphics. We wanted to get into compliance with content neutrality, legal requirements, address new technologies that were coming up, and just a list of fix items that we had as staff from various other amendments that had been done, and kind of just created some inconsistencies over time. And again, we also wanted to focus on, finding a balance for effective signage throughout the city, because that can sometimes be a hard balance to strike, and encouraging creative signage, because that's what makes places fun and exciting and makes people want to come and visit them. So we are actually just going to jump straight to the recommendation, but of course I'll answer any questions that you have, and take any suggestions that you might have. Our recommendation tonight will be that the Planning Commission adopt the negative declaration pursuant to CEQA requirements and approve Development Code Amendment 19-04 based on the findings of fact.
I think I should probably abstain from this.
Okay.
As I'm a contractor in that kind of business.
Okay.
For the record, I think that'd be a good thing to do.
That's fine. So noted on the record that, Commissioner. All right, perfect. At this point, I'll actually open public hearing for item number 7. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Or any questions? I want to say thank you, Chantal. I was going through this, and it is extensive.
Yeah.
It's very, very thorough, and I'm like looking at certain things and being like, wait, how about this? And then further along, I would have an answer to that question.
Right.
So I want to thank both of you guys for coming out and actually explaining it in last meeting and then presenting it, our final product for us.
Right, right. And we had the chance to work with the legal team pretty extensively on this too, and some of their suggestions for making reference to other sections of the code rather than writing out a whole another section, because oftentimes when you go to update something, that's where maybe it gets missed and then you have inconsistencies. So just having a reference to a certain section rather than writing out the full section again is much easier, cleaner way to make amendments as they become necessary.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments on this item?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Signage, my passionate. Look at the planning department here. Oliver.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I have not read the San Bernardino chapter 19.22 nor 19.2. I will definitely be reading that.
Okay.
ASAP.
Okay.
I do care a great deal about signage, and I do agree that the city with beautification, signage does play a part in the city streetscape.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we're trying to make positive improvement and progress, and that imagery is so important to the city streetscape. And all I want to say is just to advocate to you, on your work on our behalf to really, enforce and encourage citizens and applicants to put forth and approve beautiful signage. If you're not sure, you can always ask us if we will approve or not, or ask me to approve it or not.
Oh.
Just kidding.
Is that an invitation?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to do it for free.
We'll set up a desk for you.
Thanks, Chantel. No, I mean, signage, if we drive down the street, let's be honest here, we drive down the streets, we see some really, interesting signage here. It's like, I'm so prompted many times driving down the streets. I've jumped out of my seat, got out of my car, walk up to the owners of this business, offering my free design services, say, I can make your building look so much better. Because we care, right? So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I, too, thank you for all the work, and it has encouraged me and made me more aware so that the next applicant that comes in and has a business, I'm going to be looking very closely at what signage, and have they been informed about the requirements in the code for signage, because that educating of them starts with you guys when they apply. It moves on to us when we reinforce it, and hopefully whatever other enforcement is needed later on. But because I know we don't have a lot of people running around checking on the signage and everything, but we have to do what we can do, which is educating them when they apply. And I, for one, will be asking and watching and seeing and asking them, what signage are you putting on? Have you been informed? And how does it look? And as Helen said, we want to be inspired by their signs, too.
We can get you stacks of sign applications, so you can just give those out to business owners.
Hey, all right.
If there's no further comments on this item, I will hereby close public hearing, and I will entertain a motion to pass item number 7. Do I have a motion?
My turn. I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-005.
Sorry, that's 006.
Oh, okay. One off. Okay.
I will second.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations, and thank you for this.
Thank you.
All right. If we could have Commissioner Quill come back inside. Okay. We will go on to the Planning Commission reports and announcements. Oh, do we have any reports or announcements?
Yes, Commissioners, just wanted to inform you that I guess tonight would be Chantal with her sign code. She gave us her parting gift. While I'm excited for her professionally, I'm saddened to announce that actually tomorrow is her last day with us. And no crying, please, self-included. And it's been wonderful working with her. She's been here for a number of years, has started from the planning count, from the public information counter, and has made her way quite successfully, and I'm very proud of her and wish her well, and just wanted to make that announcement for tonight. Thank you very much.
Where are you going? To a consulting firm. What? Well, I have to go to this consulting firm now to get your opinion on things? What am I going to do?
I'm trying to decide whether I should give you the wrong name or not. No, I'm going to Interwest, a group called Interwest Consulting Group. Yeah.
Congratulations. Okay.
So, Oliver, will we be getting new blood?
I don't know if we want to call it blood, but in any event, we have opened the recruitment.
And tears.
And tears. The recruitment closes at this week, and so we will be looking to hire someone on board very quickly.
Okay. If that is the end of Director's report, I will proceed on to the adjournment. Oh, yes, Do you have a comment?
I'd like to ask a question, and I guess this is really for Mr. Huntley because he's everybody's boss here. I'm interested in knowing what the status is for the general plan. You know, there's been items in the news about money and so forth and so forth, and I didn't know where we were at and what is the status for the city moving forward in the general plan, calling for public forums or whatever.
So for the benefit of the Planning Commission, for those who don't know, actually the state of California did award the city $3 million to update its comprehensive general plan. So subsequent, the city has received that funding. It's put into a bank account, and it's strictly earmarked to update the comprehensive general plan and components of the development code. Since we've received the money, we will be putting out the request for proposals at the end of this month. That'll go out for about 45 days. We'll give consultants an opportunity, maybe not Interwest, but consulting firms to submit their proposals to the city. We'll have a committee which will evaluate those proposals. We'll take it to council for final selection. So we do anticipate getting started probably in early to mid-spring, and we'll get that started. I do want to encourage everyone who's interested in participating to come out. There will be stakeholder meetings, community meetings, and the like. This is a big process for us. The existing general plan, not in its entirety, but the existing general plan was adopted back in 2005. There have been some additional elements. The housing element, as you may be aware, were mandated to update on a much more frequent basis. However, that one's going to come up for to update also by 2021. So really the intent is to do a comprehensive update. This is a very big city. There's a lot of dynamic components of the city. Things are changing and growing around the airport. Things are growing around Cal State San Bernardino, the east side of the city, and so on. So again, my suggestion is that encourage everyone to come out and participate. The City Council will be establishing a General Plan Advisory Committee. We haven't come up with the numbers of members yet, but it may be 2 members from each of the elected officials to include the mayor as well. So we want to get that started, probably get the RFP out, get someone selected, and probably by mid-spring we'll get going on it.
Thank you. I know that those of us who are members of the neighborhood associations throughout the city are very interested, and that's one of the reasons why I am inquiring, because we'd like to be in attendance and participate and have our voices heard. Thank you.
Mr. Hunley, while you're up here, can you give us an update, or I don't know if you can or not, on the status of the Carousel Mall process?
Yes, I can. Of course.
Thank you.
So with that said, the Carousel Mall, of course, is across the street. It's about 43 acres. The City Council has provided direction to staff to go out and do a request for qualifications. What we're doing is first vetting potential developers to come work with the city through a public-private partnership. We did circulate that. We did get a total of 11 submittals that came into the city. We did do an internal review of those applications, and we whittled it down to 6, then we did interviews, and then we were down to the top 3. Went in front of the City Council on December 4th. City Council directed us to proceed. Now we're moving on to what we call a competitive RFP, where each of the 3 will compete against each other to work with the city. So the RFP for that will also go out at the end of this month, and then we'll give them probably a total of 3 months or 90 days to put a proposal together. There's a lot of components I'll have to look at. And then once those come back, we'll vet those, and I'll probably by May, we'll have a recommendation to City Council. And then once that happens, we got to look at what our next steps are going to be in regards to the public-private partnership and working on the Carousel Mall.
Great. Thank you.
More questions. See what happens when you come up to the podium.
Well, since we're in the mood, what in the world is going on with the 5th Street Gateway project?
So there is a number of properties that were former redevelopment agency parcels. Some of those were transferred over to the city for public benefit. So the 5th Street Gateway project area, or I should say parcels, I think it includes a total of 17 parcels. Those are directly to the north and east of In-N-Out. This is where In-N-Out is. I think it's between G and H. The city's been working, we went out and did a letter of interest. That was vetted before I came on board. They've selected a company called ICO Real Estate Group. That we've been working with them on that. Really, at this point, we're finalizing the agreement to take back to City Council. They've already worked on submitting conceptual plans for our review. Also think those were submitted to the city for consideration. So we do anticipate taking an item back to council at the February 4th meeting, and then subsequent to that, we do anticipate coming back in probably July, getting authorization to sell the property to ICO so they can develop that property.
Can any of this be presented to this commission also for review?
In regards to the sales components, that's actually a legislative decision by the City Council. However, any entitlements will definitely come through the Planning Commission. So,
'Cause this has been going on for, I think going on 4 years, and just sitting there. Okay, I know things take time, but anyway, thank you.
And one more, if I may. I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman who works for the management company that operates or owns the Inland Center, and asked him about the Sears. But then we're also looking for the other anchor store, Forever 21, that's also closing. So those are like two major anchors for that. Is the city involved in any way? Is this department involved in any way to helping or working together with that management company to find another retailer?
so we have had meetings with the manager of the mall, and actually Forever 21 is actually not going to close. It's one of the stores that they've opted not to close.
Mhm.
However, Sears, on the other hand, will be closed in the middle of February. It's one of the assets that the company has decided to close. About 5 years ago, Sears created a company called Seritage. They're the development arm of Sears now, and they've been out to the city. We've spent some time. We've talked to them about repositioning that building and a variety of types of tenants. So as we met with them, we actually met with them about 2 weeks ago for the second time, and they've given us some ideas of who might occupy the Sears building. But in addition to that, they do have a right to establish 2 restaurant or retail uses out in the parking area. If you're familiar with the mall, which of course you are, the field of parking that fronts on an Inland Center is really large, and it's really underutilized. So Seritage right now is looking at a variety of options to fill that space, and really the city wants it filled sooner than later. Part of that's because this is one of our, it's one of our probably top 25 sales tax generators.
Right.
And I hate to say this, but money helps run the engine, so to say. So with that said, we have been in contact with city manager, and I had a meeting with them. So we are looking at options for them. And if there's any ideas or suggestions the commission might have, feel free to shoot me an email of potential tenants we may have not thought of, and we can share that information with them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more, please.
Sure.
Arrowhead Country Club. Status and
Status of Arrowhead Country Club.
something about condos being built or...
Sure. When I first came here some 10 months ago, I heard something to that effect, but over the last 10 months, I have heard absolutely nothing about that at all. No one's engaged the city. No one's talked to us. I know that that's always an option for older golf courses, whether or not they be here within other cities. But right now, we have no applications in front of us, no conceptual plans or anything of that nature.
According to, I don't think it's gossip either, there's a company, they've put it up for sale for $5.8 million. And so they're waiting for somebody with the money to buy it.
And we have heard the same thing. Matter of fact, I talked to the manager of the site probably 2 months ago, and he said if someone was to come in, they would have no problems with selling the property, to be honest with you. So,
I think we ought to make this a regular thing at these
Sure.
planning commission meetings. Mr. Huntley,
Sure.
you've given us a lot of information.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. Any other comments or announcements? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a motion?
A motion to adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. So I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No. All right. Motion passes.